Kala, Yahweh, Basham Yahushua, Basham Kakadash. Alright, double honest to the apostles at Great Millstone. Salute to you, brothers, teaching the word in sincerity and in truth. We'll go straight into this one. So this is at Westminster Hall. You've got House of Commons, and then you got Westminster. There's two separate. There's a few others more than two, but you got the main one, and you got this. Let's play this and let's see what this individual is saying, because they're gonna have a back and forth about it. Four arguments and against for this digital ID, which will lead to the mark of the beast implant, which is top plan of the elites. Let's play it.
Pete Wishart to move the motion.
Mr. Turner, and it's a pleasure to serve under your chairing once again. I didn't have to say I didn't know I was so popular today, and I'm delighted to see so many colleagues joining us in this short debate. And can I warmly welcome the Minister to his new role. We were, I have to say, shocked and appalled at his unjustified defenestration at the Scotland office, and we were energetic supporters of the Get Ian a Job, Any Job campaign. So we're delighted to see him here in his place, in his rightful place today. It has to be asked though, who has he upset in the last few weeks to be landed with this particular poison chalice? But here we go again, Mr. Turner. It's taken 20 years, but ID cards are back. This time in a shiny new digital format, turbocharged by modern technology and all the new modern features and technology. Tony Blair, of course, famously tried to introduce ID cards back in the 2000s before being forced to abandon them by a fantastic campaign of civil liberty campaigners, of members in this House, and of course the millions and millions of ordinary UK citizens who...
Alright, so that just shows you that they're not letting up. They're not letting up on this. And there's a time for everything anyway. But they're not letting up. And you got Revelations 12 and 12 actually, as to why they'll just right now they're going all out. They're going all out. So there's no denying right now what the hell is happening on the planet right now with these agendas of New World Order agendas. Let's play on.
Refuse to have ID cards foisted upon them, but they're back like the spectre from the political grave. ID cards are with us once again, and it's just not possible that Tony Blair might just reach his ultimate aim, objective, aspiration of getting ID cards back, only this time in the form of his proxy, the current Prime Minister. Now, I had the misfortune of being around back in the 2000s with the honourable gentleman behind me, and we were part of the campaign that defeated Tony Blair at that point, and we're looking forward to defeating them again. But all the debate and all this tone of this seems to be eerily familiar. Once again, we have a government earnestly assuring us that this is a benign, benevolent scheme designed purely to make life easier for the general public. They talk about, like, Tesco club cards, about never having to find your utility bills ever again, like it's nothing more than a boarding pass. It's a sort of, don't you worry your silly little heads about this mass data collection or our newfound ability to monitor your every move. We're the UK government. Of course you can trust us. Well, Mr. Turner, we've heard it all before, and we know that this campaign is only going to be ramped up because the concerns remain the same. The threats to our privacy and civil liberties, the risk of mass surveillance, the dangers of government overreach, and the only two real vulnerabilities that come with storing vast quantities of personal...
That's exactly what they're going to be doing with it. Listen, it ain't no risks, or that's exactly what they're going to be doing. That's the whole plan, you know what I'm saying? Matter of fact, the plan comes from the elites to chip everybody with the RFID implant. And that's the ultimate goal. So you see, you got technology that they're using, and it's super tech that they're using, what's the ultimate stage of that? Is chipping, is just getting everybody chipped like cattle, or I wouldn't even say like cattle, chipped like robots, zombies. All right, that's the better way to put it. And that's exactly what the agenda is. That's exactly what their goal is. Right.
Data. And we only have to look at the newspaper head.
And by the way, the scripture says that he disappointeth the devices of the crafty, so that they cannot. He disappointeth the devices of the crafty, so that their hands can, so they cannot pretty much execute their enterprise that they want to get in. Yeah, so that all that's going to be chopped, messed up, confounded, but they are going to. So he says the hands cannot perform. So they're gonna get close. They're gonna pretty much chip all the people that are gonna get chipped, and they're gonna pull it. They're gonna put it on people thick, but they're just not gonna sit. They're just not gonna get their new world order. Put it like that.
This morning to see the true effects of that particular fear with the breakdown in Amazon workplaces. Imagine if that was the personal data of everybody across the United Kingdom. I'll go away briefly, yeah.
Wayne, I thank him for bringing this debate, because it is an issue that I think the general public is engaged in. But he will know that Scotland has its own identity card, known as a Scot card, which is used to store benefit data, debt data, the checks to make sure people can work with vulnerable people, court data, tax data. Quite incredible. And there's real fears that this...
Can I just say, interventions need to be very short.
So I'll get to okay. I thank you for again. So does he share the concern of Big Brother Watch that this is a mandatory ID system in Scotland in all but name, and does he share the concern of my residents that the data could be leaked?
Thank you.
So now he's coming and saying, well, look, they've got a Scot card which has got certain data in it that they're using some form of digital ID. Which is not mandatory to work, but that's his argument. Which is what you'll find out is that in a lot of these different countries, they're working towards these things. It's a global, it's a new world order.
Waste time responding to all the nonsense you said. It is a voluntary scheme. Now, does the honourable member know the difference between voluntary and mandatory? All he needs to either do is shake his head or nod it, because that is exactly the detail is at hand. This has been objected to because it is mandatory. It's one of the few mandatory ID systems anywhere in the world. The Scottish account's great, but it's up to the individual user what gets put into it and what gets shared. Unlike this horror, I'm not giving away term again. And this time, Mr. Turner, this scheme could barely have got off to a worse start. Support for digital ID has actually collapsed since the public have been able to see the government's proposals. The petition calling it for it to be scrapped.
That's why they say that it's going to be, you ain't going to be able to work once to put it in. So what they're going to do is make you have to get the shit. That's how they're thinking. That's what it is. All these people, I ain't gonna take it. Well, a lot of them, people are gonna want to eat. And a lot, y'all ain't got the protection of Yahweh Shem Yahushua, the Most High and His Son. So you're just out there. Matter of fact, the scripture says, "My servant shall eat." So what about y'all? Y'all ain't gonna work. What you gonna do then? Because they think they can say, well, we don't stand for it, so it ain't gonna come in. That's not how it's gonna work. That's what they're banking on. That they say, well, because we ain't standing for this.
has become one of the fastest growing ever we've seen. It's now almost at 3 million, and I'm pretty certain by the time I sit down, it will be well over 3 million signatories. And I saw the Minister, I heard the Minister on his car crash interview on Radio Scotland.
You got Jake in the back there.
Where he both simultaneously at the same time told us the government plans were both compulsory and voluntary. He went on to say apparently it would be mandatory for some purposes, a sort of partial compulsion, if you like, a digital half pregnancy. Maybe this is a Schrodinger's Brit card. Yes, we're going to be talking.
Thank you, Mr Chair, and thank the honourable member for giving way. Would the member agree with me that the vast majority of the population across the UK, including Northern Ireland, are clearly seeing what this is? It's a breach of their data, it's a breach of spying on them, and that the mass population are now opposed to this?
Yeah, absolutely. And support for this, as I said, has been plummeted right across the United Kingdom. I'm not surprised that's the case in the United Kingdom. So let's just dispel with this notion. This is a mandatory scheme. It is compulsory. It's to be compulsory for work, and if it's compulsory for work, it's going to be mandatory, full stop. The only people who...
This is like a one-sided debate. They're making this particular MP, or whatever, you know, they're making him speak. I mean, it is on his channel. It's on his channel, so popped up. It's on his channel, so they're giving him, because they said let's make the counter arguments be short. And another thing, man, I'm gonna be taught. I'll mention it. I'm gonna mention it again. Is the controlled opposition that you've got as well. What they have to do is, if they know people are going to rebel against it, they're going to control the opposition. They're going to control where that goes. So they'll put up people that are part really for it, but working for the you know, this beast. Okay, and then but what they're going to do is act like they're against it, but really they're for it. So then they can say, well, everyone starts following them, which have already got those shills set up, and then, oh, okay, we'll do this march. It wasn't organic, it was set up. And then those where the march is all controlled, how they do it, and they don't even know who set that up. Let's play, man.
Wouldn't need one of these Brit cards are people who plan never to work, never plan to rent a home or have access to public services, and never take part in any part of normal life. Now, as we know, all of this emerged from our friends in Labour Together. It was them that first proposed this and has been adopted by the Labour Party. And for some reason, they thought they would call this the Brit card, almost immediately alienating most of Scotland and probably about half of Northern Ireland at the same time. And it's given the recent controversies with Labour Together, it's probably a good idea for the Minister and his government team to stay as far away and as distant as they possibly can from Labour Together. But Mr Turner, let's have a proper look under the bonnet of the great British Brit card. The government says that it will be free of charge this time around and available to all citizens and legal residents, which I think is so far so good. But we still don't know its reach. Who will be expected to adopt one and take one? There's already been rumours.
Let's see if they said, well, if you're 13 years old, you're going to have it. And the reason why they said that was because they want to chip everybody. So they're getting you used to it from now. That this ain't just about working or someone as of a certain age just to work. This is about getting everybody chipped. That's the ultimate goal. So if they can get everybody on this system, well, it don't matter how old you are, but even a baby's got to get it. Because they got to get registered, right? Then, because it's like, you know, you get a national insurance number, you get this number, you get that. It's everything on one. It's your ID. It's all. That's going to be easy for them to do. They ain't going to stop. They ain't going to just go, okay, you know what, by the way, packing this in. They ain't going to do that.
18-year-olds might have to have a BRIC card, though that has been disputed by the government. And we already know, of course, that our...
See, I haven't watched this, and he said it because it's pretty obvious the direction where all this is heading. You know what I'm saying? What they're doing with this is like what we just said here. It's mandatory for everybody. That's where it's gonna be at.
Veterans will be the first of the many digital guinea pigs.
On that point,
Yes, of course.
as a veteran, I looked yesterday and I was quite disgusted to see that the veterans are being used as guinea pigs with a smoke screen to actually test this system. Our veterans do everything for us. They're brave people. They should not be the ones that are tested on this. Does the member agree with me?
The Honourable Member definitely does agree with the Honourable Gentleman, and it's absolutely absurd and so unfair that it's our veterans that are the guinea pigs in order to test this out for this government. But essentially, Mr Turner, we're told that this is essential to tackle illegal working and illegal migration. But when you actually look at the evidence of mandatory ID right across the world, it just does not stack up. Under the government's plan, anyone seeking work must prove their right to work through this digital ID, giving the Home Office sweeping new powers over individuals' daily lives, from employment to housing to basic public services. Yet everywhere where we see the mandatory ID is in place, there's no clear evidence whatsoever that they reduce illegal working or irregular migration. Let's be absolutely clear, illegal working doesn't stop because people are forced to carry digital ID cards. It stops when people are allowed to work legally, contribute to society and live without fear. Yeah. Now, Big Brother Watch has called mandatory digital ID a civil liberties nightmare, and they are absolutely right. Amnesty International warns that such a scheme risks becoming a honeypot for hackers and a tool for state surveillance. Again, absolutely right. It's also been the case, Mr Turner, that the UK has never been the sort of nation where it's been normal to have to prove who you are when you've not been suspected of doing anything wrong. Now, I don't share the concept of being British, but there's something particularly un-British about having to surrender huge amounts of personal data just to access basic services, to be part of a papers, please culture.
Yeah, when you're over in the UK, you got Scots. They don't, people lumping them to one bracket, but the Scots don't really deal with the English on that level. Well, they don't, you know what I'm saying? They don't consider themselves. They don't even want to be lumped under one umbrella. They want to be separate. Okay, and then you got the Irish, same thing pretty much.
Even in digital form, just seems to be so alien to this country that we still... I will give way to the Honourable Gentleman.
Thanks. I agree with most of his conclusions here. Does he agree with me that actually, in hindsight, the use of a COVID passport by the Scottish Government was a mistake, and especially in the way it exposed the government to criticism from the Information Commissioner about the lack of transparency of how that data was used?
Because he needs an answer to that. No, I don't think it was a mistake to have that in place. I think it was absolutely the correct thing to do. But mandatory digital ID would fundamentally change the trust-based relationship between citizen and state, replacing it with one of constant verification ID.
The use of a COVID...
I will give way to the Honourable Gentleman.
Thanks. I agree with most of his conclusions here. Does he agree with me that actually, in hindsight, the use of a COVID passport by the Scottish Government was a mistake, and especially in the way it exposed the government to criticism from the Information Commissioner about the lack of transparency of how that data was used?
So from what I'm getting, because these people speak a certain way, from what I'm getting, the hip C passport, he said that they were the right thing to do. If I'm not mistaken on what he's, how it's all worded, but check this. So he's against digital IDs, but he wasn't against the C IDs, and even if he was, he couldn't say that. He couldn't say that
He needs an answer to that. No, I don't think it was a mistake to have that in place. I think it was absolutely the correct.
But they're the same thing. They did the same thing. Did the same thing, man.
Thing to do. But
She's got a lockdown. You can't do this. You can't do that. You can't go nowhere. Okay, you're ordering your groceries online or whatever you're doing. The same thing with a digital ID. You can't do this. You can't do that unless you have this digital ID.
mandatory digital ID would fundamentally change the trust-based relationship between citizen and state, replacing it with one of constant verification and oversight. And let's not forget about the danger of mission creep. Once this type of infrastructure exists, it very rarely stays confined to its original purpose. The government says that the police won't be able to demand to see a person's digital ID, but can anyone seriously believe that that won't change over time? And this just isn't about what this government might do. It's about what every future government might do too. We're not just empowering this Labour government, we're empowering every government that will come after it. Can you just imagine the sight of Prime Minister Farage with the data of the nation at his fingertips with all of his authoritarian tendencies? It scares me half to...
Yeah, they're all in on it, man. They're all in on it. Oh, Farage is for the people. That's for knuckleheads. That's for knuckleheads, man. You just don't know what's really going on in how this system operates, man. All these individuals have all, especially when you're on a certain level, they've all took oaths anyway. They're all involved in this. Now, someone behind the scenes, I don't really agree with that. But, you know, they got to go with it.
Death, and it should scare the whole of the House half to death. Yeah. Then there's the cost. The government have been...
All these political parties, man, they're all in the same club. You know what I'm saying?
Very coy about the costs, reluctant to even give us any sort of ballpark figure, and they're absolutely right to do so too. Now, those that have been prepared to work out an estimate on their behalf, have said initially this could cost anything between 1.2 billion to 2 billion, a gross underestimate at what that would cost. The Friends and Labour together, of course, laughingly told us that this would be £1.4 million. But we only need to look at the costs of the physical ID to get some sort of sense about what it will eventually cost. They were to cost £5.4 billion for the physical ID. Some people reckon that would get above £15 billion, getting to the stage of about 19, possibly £20 billion. Now, digital ID is a much more technical and complicated thing to administer and bring forward.
They don't care. Money ain't the issue to the elites anyway. They don't care, man. It's all about control. It's about control. It's not about the money.
With the physical version. So do the sums, work out how much this will cost. And I think all of our constituents should be asking every single member of Parliament in this House, should we be spending billions of pounds on a scheme that nobody wants, that there is no demand for, when we have a cost of living crisis raging in every single one of our constituencies?
Well, the elites want it. And that's just the bottom line. He just mentioned sheep, that was the right thing to do. But when that happened, they didn't ask nobody, how do you feel about that? Should we bring that in? They didn't ask that. They just put that in. So that's exactly how. They ain't asking you.
Are we seriously going to spend billions of pounds on a quack-brain scheme that no one wants, which is unpopular and no one seems to need? Then there is what's happening.
And you people that are coming against it, they're going to start putting you on lists.
Elsewhere, and I know we get the foreign examples to try and suggest that this is just business as normal for this government. I know they're keen to promote the Estonia scheme, and I've had a good look at Estonia. Estonia's 10 times more digitally engaged than the United Kingdom. It's an entirely different nation than we have here. But even with all their knowledge and experience in digital systems, there have been catastrophic data leaks, which has led to real problems and issues for the citizenry. Now look across Europe. Europe is, of course, like Scotland, developing its own type of digital wallet. And of course it's the right thing to do. People actually like having these things on a digital wallet. The key difference, mandatory, compulsory. And we come back to that particular feature again. Now in Scotland we are developing the Scot account. It's proven to be very popular and I encourage people to use it. There is nothing wrong with having things in the digital wallet. It only becomes wrong when it's...
Okay, they pretty much didn't. It was just once. I wanted to see a debate back and forth, but they only had one person say something, and then they didn't make him speak. So they just pretty much wanted this cat to speak. But then when it comes round to the main the prime minister that's in office right now, Keir Starmer, he anything that's brought to him, he's just pushing it any damn way. So all this ain't gonna stop. What's gonna happen? Let's get Revelation. Why? Because I'm gonna go straight to the point. Revelation 12:12. Therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that ye have but a short time. So they're pushing it anyway. I want to find some. I'm gonna do a video and some more debates going on about this. Okay, so that I'm gonna say shalom.